This is the Shoulda Bet More podcast, presented by Gold Boys Network. Here's your host, Will Hill.
Welcome to the Shoulda Bet More podcast, presented by Gold Boys. Coming up on the show, Adam Kaufman of The Gambler, Boston Radio, iHeartRadio, Sports Grid. He will join us. We will go over the Thanksgiving games. We got three of them. One of them is really good. One of them is really bad. One of them's, you get the Lions and the Bears. So get his thoughts on those. I'll give my thoughts on those coming up. So again, just a great time of the year for sports. You wake up, college basketball is on all day, all night, well past midnight. The games start at 10 in the morning. And then you have all the college football, Black Friday, the Thanksgiving Day's NFL, the Thanksgiving Day where you get the 3 NFL games. Just so much fun, so much sports. It's really a fun time of the year. And I will start just going back to the last couple of days. I'll start with the Monday night game just because I do think it's significant. It's possible we look back in January at these 3 or 4 days and say this is where the Ravens won the AFC North, because Pittsburgh was a 3.5-point favorite and the Chargers were a 3-point favorite. So two kind of coin flip games, and the Steelers had the ball in the lead with a couple minutes left. First down wins it. They're in good shape. Couldn't do it. We know the Browns come back and win. And then the Ravens are down 10-0 to the Chargers early, but second quarter, they come back and they score 5 drives in a row after punting their first 2 drives, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and they win the game. And now the Ravens are minus 210. And if you look at the next 5 games for the Steelers, there's a home game against the Browns in there. But other than that, there is at Bengals, at Eagles, at Ravens, the Chiefs, and the 5th game is the Browns, and they play the Bengals again. So that is 5 of their 6 remaining games. This is absolutely a gauntlet of a schedule here for the Steelers. And I know they've defied the odds, and nobody thought, or at least I didn't think they were going to be at 8 wins right now, but this might be where the magic runs out. I'd expect them to beat Cleveland in a couple of weeks, but I think Cincy probably beats them this week, and you could be looking at a string of losses coming up. Now, the Ravens play the Eagles this week too, but that game is in Baltimore, and once they get past that, it's Giants, it's Browns, they have a bye. The Ravens' schedule is easier, and they get the Steelers at home, so I think the Ravens are in good shape. I think they are probably going to go on and win the AFC North. Remember last week that was plus 160 and the Steelers were minus 210. Well, those numbers have flipped where the Ravens are now minus $2 favorites, and I think that is an appropriate price. I think the Ravens are favored, and they're rightfully favored to win this division. Sunday night game, the Eagles continue to roll. We were recording as that game happened. The big takeaway from that is, we are probably on a crash course for a Lions-Eagles NFC title game. I know it's the NFL. You never know. Anyone can break that up, or one bad game could break that up. I'm not actually sure if you're going to ask me, like, who breaks up an Eagles-Lions NFC title game. I don't know what the answer is. Is it Minnesota? I don't think it's Green Bay. San Francisco looks dead. But either way, that looks like that's a collision course. That's an NFC title game waiting to happen, just a matter of who hosts. But the big takeaway betting-wise, Barkley went from like 65-1, the Eagles running back, to win MVP, down to like 5-1. And look, I don't think he's going to win. I can't say he has no shot, but that's one of those things, sort of like Paul Skeens with the Cy Young, where he's 100-1 to win Cy Young. Then a couple days later, he's like 3-1. If you're betting at 100-1, fine. If you're betting at 3-1, probably not a great bet. So he'll get some sentiment. I know that people will say maybe if these quarterbacks don't play well, they'd be, hey, let's finally give it to a running back again. It can't be just the quarterback award. But I do think there's enough voters that say, and Aaron Schatz, who we've had on, and we'll have again on soon, I think, he flat out says the most valuable player cannot be a running back, because the most valuable player, the most valuable position is quarterback. So the best quarterback has to win this award. So I wouldn't bet Barkley at 5-1. I'm not saying he can't win it, but I just think you've missed the boat. Again, if you're taking a flyer at 50, 60-1, 40-1, okay, I get that. But at 5-1, I think you probably missed the boat. And Henry's not having that much worse of a year, the Baltimore running back, than Barkley. So that's an interesting way of looking at it too. But as far as these Thanksgiving games, Lions laying 10 to the Bears. Bears actually got bet a little bit. And with the Thanksgiving games, you get a lot of recreational money. A lot of people just sitting around want to throw their $50, $100 on a game. So that usually skews the line towards the favorites. Favorites have done well on Thanksgiving just in general as a trend, which makes sense because the favorites are motivated. The favorites, you're not going to catch the Lions napping on Thanksgiving. It's not going to be, if you play Sunday at 1 against, the Jags or the Titans, that might be a spot where you're a little complacent. But when you're primetime, standalone game, buildings rocking, you're not going to have a flat spot. So that does make sense that the favorites have done well recently on Thanksgivings. If I had to bet it, I'd actually take the 10 with the Bears. I just think Caleb Williams has played better. They did a good job on Justin Jefferson the other day. The Bears did defensively. they're only a couple plays away from having like good 6 or 7 wins with, they got a kick blocked against Green Bay, final play of the game. They had the miracle play go against them with Washington with the Hail Mary. I don't think this is a bad team. I don't think they're a good team or anything. I know Detroit is an absolute freight train, but I absolutely think Chicago could keep this game close. Remember Green Bay went into Detroit last year on Thanksgiving. Detroit was a big favorite, somewhat of a similar spot. I know Detroit wasn't as good, and maybe Chicago's not as good as Green Bay was last year, but Green Bay went in there and absolutely rolled them. I know Detroit made a late comeback to try and make that game close, but Green Bay absolutely buried them in that game. So I think Chicago, if I had to bet it, which I'm not dying to step in front of the Detroit team, I would actually take the points. The next game, Giants, Cowboys laying 3.5, 4. I wanted no part of DeVito. If somehow DeVito doesn't play, that's the only thing keeping me off the Cowboys. If somehow DeVito doesn't play, I think the Giants are a good bet at 3.5. And DeVito is banged up, which is late breaking news here, at least as we're recording this, that DeVito's on 100%. He's on 100% to play on Thursday. If DeVito plays, I like Dallas. If Locke plays, I like the Giants. I think it's that simple. I just don't think DeVito is an NFL quarterback. I don't think they'll be able to score. If DeVito does play, I would look at an under. But if Locke plays, they're live because Locke is at least like a serviceable NFL backup. So just a brutal game, just an absolute brutal game. You figure Dallas, they're home. On Thanksgiving, they're going to be up for it. The crowd's going to be up for it. It's a rivalry game, but this is just one of the worst games of the week. But it's standalone game. It's on Thanksgiving, 4:00 in the afternoon, 4:30 in the afternoon. So it'll be on in the background. We'll all be watching it, but this is obviously not a game we're all looking forward to. Maybe there'll be some college basketball alternatives to watch because we got all these college basketball tournaments this week. The final game, Green Bay, Miami. Green Bay is laying 3.5. I want no part of Miami. If you just look back the last 5 games with Tua in cold weather, the last like 10, 15 games with Miami in cold weather, they never play well. It's not just a narrative. It's not just a misnomer. Miami struggles in the cold weather. Tua has a fine enough arm when everything's perfect. And Miami, in a lot of ways, is a bettor's best friend because when they're playing the mediocre teams, the dregs of the league, the Raiders and the Patriots, they scored their 30-plus points. They win. They cover. Their offense is hard to stop. When they're outdoors, they're in the cold, Tua just doesn't throw the ball as well. The receivers, obviously, you're not going to catch the ball as well in the cold. They're just not acclimated to this weather. And this is a Green Bay team that, is at least used to the weather. So I think that the conditions where it's going to be 20, 25 degrees, there's a little wind. I think that absolutely favors the Packers. I don't love laying the 3.5. The hook bothers me, but I do like Green Bay. That's probably my favorite of these 3 is Green Bay minus the points. So that is the NFL. Ravens in good shape to win the division. Barkley, I wouldn't bet that at that number for MVP. I know he's the flavor of the week, but the flavor of the week comes and goes here in the NFL where, we've seen this guy can win it. That guy can win it. There's still a long way to go. I would not be jumping on the Barkley train. I think you are late to the party with Barkley. I mentioned the college basketball has been good. That Maui tournament is so much fun. UConn Memphis on Monday was outstanding. By the way, Hurley, his success speaks for itself. 2 national titles in a row. They've just absolutely destroyed everybody in the tournament. He's got to calm down a little bit. You can't say after the game, my technical didn't cost us the game. And for anyone that didn't see, tie game, overtime. UConn was down like 13 with 3 minutes to go, but tie game, 40 seconds left in overtime. UConn gets a rebound, a putback. They're up by 2, but they wave it off. They call offensive foul, which live, I thought it was absolutely the right call. Watching the replay, you can say, all right, that's a soft call. There was barely contact. You definitely could have let it go. But then Hurley gets a technical to make it so Memphis gets free throws, the ball. The game is basically out of reach at that point. And then Hurley after the game says, well, my technical didn't cost us the game. The shitty calls cost us the game. We're the 2-time national champs. We should get those calls. I'm paraphrasing. But, I mean, what happened last March? What happened the March before? It should not be influencing how these refs call the game. That's just a ridiculous comment from Hurley. He winds every play. Again, I know he's a great coach. I know his teams win. He gets the most out of his players. He's demanding. But, oh, my goodness, non-stop with the whining about the refs. Every call he's losing his mind. It's too much. It's really too much. I'm sure it pisses off the refs, too. Now, look at that. Hasn't affected him in the tournament or anything because, like I said, they just destroyed everyone for 2 straight years, 12 straight wins. But, oh, my God, it's tough to watch. It's got to be annoying as a ref, too. Every single call he's complaining about. So, but the games are fun. The games were good. The Dayton, North Carolina game was 92-90. That was exciting. The Iowa State Auburn game was a lot of fun. That came down to the wire. And that gym, they just have soft rims. It's easy to score. The teams are good. So that's been an enjoyable tournament to watch. We will get the title game here Wednesday night. Thanksgiving Eve is always, and again, we got the whole weekend with just good college basketball games, good college football games. It is one of the best weeks of the year. I can't put it like I still think March Madness when you get the NCAA tournament, even that conference tournament week is great. October when you get baseball playoffs with all the NFL, with all the college football, that's right there. January with the playoffs is still good with the NFL playoffs, but this is certainly, I think, April when you get the NFL draft, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, baseball all at once. But this is certainly, I think, like a top 5 week of the year. This is a fun week. So looking forward to all the games, looking forward to talking to Adam Kaufman. That is next. This is the Shoulda Bet More podcast. Shoulda Bet More podcast. We are back, and he is back. You can catch him on The Gambler, Boston Radio, iHeartRadio, Sports Grid. He's got a number of different roles. He does them all admirably, and he joins us again. Adam Kaufman. Adam, what's going on, man? Happy Thanksgiving. Fun time of the year.
You had me till admirably. Thank you. I do my best, but hey, anytime I get to catch up with you, be it here or on one of my shows, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Let's get into the Thanksgiving Day games because look, whether they're great games or okay games, it's Thanksgiving. They're standalone games. People are going to watch them. People are going to bet on them, which I actually think factors into how you have to handicap these because it's a lot of recreational money. People sitting on the couch, they're eating, they're betting, they want to throw $50, $100, and those type of bettors tend to lean towards the favorite. So I think these lines get inflated, and there have been trends of, and I'm not a huge trend guys of favorites doing well on Thanksgiving, which makes sense because if you have the better team, they're not going to be flat on Thanksgiving. They're going to be motivated. Again, it's a standalone game. So that being said, let's get into it. Detroit, Chicago. Detroit now laying 10. Chicago got bet Tuesday morning. It's dangerous stepping in front of this Lions team. I know it's a lot of points. I would lean towards the Bears. I would need the hook at 10. It'd probably be a pass. I don't feel great about betting against Detroit. Does Detroit finally have a flat spot here? What are your thoughts on this game? Side, total, props, whatever direction you want to go.
Look, I'm not getting in front of the massive train that is the Detroit Lions. I think this is, and I'm not alone, obviously, in feeling this way. This is the best team in the NFL, and I will be awfully surprised if Detroit is not representing the NFC in the Super Bowl and even, hoisting the Lombardi come the end of it. And I love watching this team. And there are certain things to pay attention to. Like you mentioned, flat spot. I mean, everybody thought that last week against the Colts was going to be a flat spot because it was the look ahead spot to Thanksgiving and the short week and a divisional game and all of that. And, what did they do? They blew doors. I mean, how many people were on the Colts +8, +7.5, as it moved, obviously. I didn't like it. It was a, hold your nose and throw open your mouth kind of play. I was not in favor of it at all, but I did it just because if the Lions are going to let us down at any point, it feels like this is going to be where they do it. And no, curb stomping of Indianapolis, and I just don't see this one going any differently. I have no interest in betting Chicago +10, or even 10.5 if it, gets to, I guess you have one rogue 10.5 I'm looking at on FanDuel. Everything else is 10. I would lay it with the Lions if I'm, inclined to bet a side. I would, because, what's the secret to betting Detroit? Ultimately, you got to be able to contain the run. This Bears team can't do that. And even if Dave Montgomery doesn't play, and there are some questions around that with his injury right now, Jahmyr Gibbs more than capable. So, that coupled with how much time Jared Goff is going to have to operate in the pocket because the Bears don't rush or pressure particularly well. This is not going to be a problem for Detroit. But like you said, if you do want to acknowledge trends historically over the last, let's call it 20, 25 years, the Lions, not a great team on Thanksgiving. That being said, again, look at how much they've evolved. I mean, this is a different team than what we were talking about largely over the last 2.5 decades. So I would lay it with the Lions. I think they're going to go out and they're going to win convincingly.
How do you feel on the total here? 48.5.
I would lean toward the over if I was going to have a play on the total. In terms of what these teams have done so far this year, Bears are largely an under team, 7-4. Detroit is right down the middle, 5-1 over under this year. I think that, maybe I lean points, but not with such conviction that I want to bet it.
Yeah, again, I have a gut feeling Chicago plays him better than I think. Caleb hasn't looked bad the past couple weeks. They did a good job on Jefferson last week. Again, I can't quite get there with the Bears.
Sure.
The next game, a fun one. It is the Cowboys against the Giants. Cowboys are laying 4. Totals 37.5. I'm assuming we see DeVito. Why they're insisting on playing him? My only guess is they want to get the best pick they can possibly get. DeVito certainly gives you the chance of that. They gave Locke $5 million to not let him be the backup now. I don't know. Are you betting this game? Who do you like?
Well, I like that it's the middle game of the day so that you can completely ignore it and go enjoy your dinner with your family and then get back to football for the nightcap. I mean, this is gross. Like, there's nothing fun about this game on paper, at least. Maybe the reality will be a little bit different. These are two absolutely putrid teams. I mean, 2-9, the Giants, the Cowboys. I did think we're going to be a playoff team going into the year, but poor play coupled with now the injury to Dak Prescott, obviously, 4-7, 0-5 at home, which was remarkable. I do think the Cowboys probably win this game, probably, because I think the Giants have just outright quit. It's a locker room divided after the Daniel Jones benching turn release, and in that dream scenario that I would have loved with Daniel Jones hitting free agency and signing with Dallas and going against the Giants.
Would have
I
been
don't
fun.
even know. Yeah, I don't even know if like that by waiver and free agency rules and everything, if the time worked for that to be possible. But holy God, that would have made this game must watch. But Giants suck. The Cowboys are bad too. But I texted a friend of mine the other day who's a big Giants fan. I said, "Man, full tank mode, huh?" He'd like, I mean, yeah, if it were intentional, they're just that bad. I don't think they're going out there trying to tank. I think they're just awful. And so looks like a pretty good spot for if you want to get into the prop market. Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary, they're like DeVito is going to be under attack. He's going to be under duress from Micah Parsons. He's probably going to like you might want to bet Parsons or Dallas sacks or something like that. But I do think that the running backs are probably going to have some ability to move the chains in this one. But beyond that, I'm just sort of scanning, this game. There's nothing I feel good about with this game. I would just maybe try and thread a needle where, I take the Giants with the points and the Cowboys on the money line, figuring it's going to be a close game and that, New York has an ability to keep it close. But, then you know how it goes. I mean, this is the Shoulda Bet More podcast. It's getting greedy when you try and do something like that with such a slim spread.
Yeah, if anything, I can't bet DeVito, so it'd be Giants team total under, maybe just a game under. I would think Dallas would win. It's like Dallas, look, they're not very good right now, but it was a decent effort against Washington, and everyone's going to be motivated on Thanksgiving too. So you can't especially when you're home, like the home crowd is not going to let you. It's a rivalry game. They're home. I do think. Again, I don't know. Do I want to leave more than a field goal with Rush? I don't know that I do, but I'm not backing the veto, so I'll probably end up on the under here. The night game is fun. Both teams in the mix. Packers in the mix. It's weird. The Packers are like 8-3 in third place. They can't get out of third place because Minnesota's really good and Detroit's great. So very unusual to be 8-3 and to be stuck in third place like this. Clearly behind two teams. They have they don't have the tiebreaker against either one of them either. Dolphins crawling back in the mix. Tua has played well, but we're looking at like 20-degree weather. It is Packers -3.5. It is a total 47. I'd only look to Green Bay because of the weather. What are your thoughts on this game?
The hook is interesting, isn't it? Seeing 3.5 on this one because it's desperation mode for Miami and obviously did look better last time out. Jalen Waddle went crazy in that game. This offense, for all the time we've spent like praising Mike McDaniels, this offensive guru over the years, there are some questions about that at this point, obviously, since for whatever reason, the only guy that he can even have a functional offense out there on the field with is Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback. And, it doesn't matter if every other weapon is the same, every other player is the same. It all goes to hell. He can't scheme up anything. I don't get it. But Tua's there. He's healthy. He's increasingly looking better since coming back from the latest concussion. And so I do think Miami puts up a fight. That being said, as you said, the weather, you can't ignore that weather, in late November, almost December at Lambeau, it would have to have you lean toward the Packers. And so again, you kind of bite your tongue and hope for the best when it comes to them clearing it by 4+ points. But I do think ultimately that's the right side. But look, the Packers, I don't know about you, they impressed me last time out against the Niners. I did think that San Francisco at least was going to keep that game competitive. I didn't think the Niners were going to win without Brock Purdy, but they got embarrassed. And as much blame as maybe San Francisco deserves for that, got to give a lot of credit to Green Bay as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What are you looking for? Anything this weekend? What's your favorite play of the Sunday games?
I'm still sort of figuring that out. I think, as we get like injury reports, obviously, and everything takes shape during the week, kind of a quick look at it. And this is maybe me talking myself into something more than it is truly believing it. But I just haven't quit on the Bengals yet, man. And they are, they're at home, 2.5, 3-point favorites. The Steelers did not look impressive in the bad weather last time out, obviously in Cleveland, and kicking off week 12 with the loss in the snow globe conditions on TV. I do think the Steelers are legit defensively. As well as Russ has played since he took over, I still don't love that offense. And the defense, as we know, blows for Cincinnati. I mean, how many opportunities has that team given away so far this year? But the offense is still special between Burrow and Chase and Higgins and company. And so, look, we're pretty much play for your season at this point for Cincinnati. They're the 10 seed. They're 4-7, half game back of Indianapolis, full game back of Miami. And obviously Denver there at 7-5 is the 7 seed, which would be the last qualifying team for the postseason right now. And so, they're not dead till they're dead. And this is as essentially a must win. I know you hate to say the term must win when it's not a literal must win, but mathematically we're getting pretty damn close. And so that's a spot that I expect the Bengals at home to respond.
Yep, since he can maybe lose one more game, it just can't be to Denver because that would give Denver the tiebreaker, and it looks like Denver is, if nothing else, going to tie Cincy, if not be ahead, because Denver looks like just a solid, legitimately.
Yeah, shockingly.
Yeah, I would. And not only the preseason expectations over under 5.5, and Knicks and Peyton, questions about both of them. They were 0-2, and it looked ugly 0-2, and they've played really well since, and that's just a good roster, a good team. Knicks has been solid, so. Yeah, I don't know that Cincy can catch him, but I certainly understand the temptation in terms of like, hey, you see the talent, and man, if they miss the playoffs by a game or so, which it looks like they're probably going to do, the Ravens game where they're up 10 late, the other one where they're up 14, that Thursday night game, they lose week 1 to the Patriots. It's just like, man, they kind of gave it away in the playoffs. If you're neutral, would probably be more fun with Burrow.
The Chargers to steal that game.
Yep.
I mean, I know they climb out of a giant hole, but 2 missed field goals toward the end of that game.
Absolutely. Nope, no doubt about it. College football. Do you have any thought here? I guess I'll ask it this way. And we are recording this right before the rankings are going to come out. So I don't pay too much attention to that just because I feel like they can move things however they want and they're not beholden to the rankings. But
manipulated.
What's that?
No, I agree with you. They can manipulate it. Look, the committee is incredibly honorable, obviously. I mean, we all know that. There's no discretion. There are no, they're flying by the seat of their pants. They were doing it at 4. They'll do it again at 12. It'll just be, it's like selection Sunday in college basketball. There's no way to completely get it right. You're going to piss somebody off. And that's just what we're counting down to at this point.
Who is the team you're most interested to see like 2 weeks from now? Are they in? Are they out? Who is like the one team like, man, I really don't know what they're going to do with that team?
So it's funny that I feel like there are a lot of people that are sitting around. It's like, all right, Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi, Texas A&M, who misses out? That kind of. I'm really, and maybe it's just because I feel like I've just been talking about this team the entire season before it became, such a national topic. I was impressed from the jump, like week 1, week 2, by Indiana. And, now we're looking at this Indiana Boise State debate, which is just it's kind of nuts to me with it. And it sort of reminds me a little bit of last year. And I know this year's is incredibly different because it's 12 teams versus 4. But I remember last year, we're sitting, it's like, man, that I know they fell at the end of the year to Alabama, but Georgia's the two-time defending champ. Like, is the committee really going to keep the Bulldogs out, or Florida State? You know, that this is where like discretion comes into play. Obviously, man, they haven't lost. They're 13-0 or whatever it was, but the quarterback's hurt, and they're a terrible product visually, and so do they end up getting the axe. And so it's not all about most deserving team. It's how are you playing right now, and what have you done for me lately, and all of that. At least it was last year, and I'm sure it's going to be this year. And there's no standard by which the committee is held to, and that's what pisses everybody off. But now, because Cignetti and Indiana finally took a loss, the first loss of the year, and looks largely uncompetitive in doing it, now all of a sudden, do they belong? And so it's Indiana against Boise State, it looks like. And, you know, I was reading something earlier that Indiana's highest ranking, and again, like you said, this is pre-new rankings coming out, but Indiana's highest ranking would be at number 10. And then the top four, with that unchanged, would drop the Hoosiers behind Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, SMU. And if behind Boise State as well, who did win last time out against Wyoming, but not a particularly impressive win. It was a low-scoring, couple of touchdown win. You know, Boise's best two wins, UNLV and Washington State, whereas Indiana's best wins are Washington and Michigan. And yeah, Michigan's the defending champ, but certainly hasn't looked like it throughout this year. We know that. And so it doesn't seem like, if the committee wants to, it would be all that difficult to make a case for Boise getting the spot ahead of Indiana. And to me, that's just kind of effed. You know, like that sucks. Like, Indiana has been a cover machine, has been fun to watch, has been an incredible story. If you're going to have this expanded format for a reason, let's put teams that truly deserve to be in there. Like, if we're going to have a conversation about whether Army deserves in the college football playoff, I want Indiana in there before Army. Hell, I'd love to see Colorado in there, but they may have shot themselves in the foot. But, you know, like that's what, to me, this is all about. I don't know if you see it any differently.
Yeah, I think Indiana's in good shape to get in. I know the market certainly thinks so. You get them like 10-1 to miss the playoffs. I think the fact that they lost, but that was kind of offset by Ole Miss losing, Bama losing, all these teams with 3 losses. If it was 1 loss Indiana versus 2 loss other teams, you could have a debate. 1 loss versus 3 loss. I know you could talk to me about the schedule, but the 1 loss is at Ohio State, which is forgivable. I think Indiana's in good shape to be in. So I don't know. I'm curious. I don't think they'll put Bama in, but you never know. And look, we're all in this together. We're all learning it the first time, like how they're going to handle this. Could they really put a 3-loss Bama team in? I don't know. I guess it depends on, how things play out. I don't even know that Bama's going to beat Auburn, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I was against the 12 teams, but there's so much in terms of like the content, the extra games to watch, the extra games to bet, the extra spots to debate. If you're in the content business, and even if you're just a fan, there is a lot of fun about the 12-team playoff. Last one, who you're in Boston. Who do the Red Sox fans think they're going to sign? Who do you think they'll sign? What's the mood? Is there some optimism that you can dip your toe in a soda, which I don't believe at all? Max Fried, some of these pitchers. What are your thoughts on free agency here?
Unfortunately, and if we had this conversation, we're in 2024, so if we had this conversation 15 years ago, I would have had even 10 years ago, I would have had a very different answer. But at this point, with where the ownership has been the last several years, I'm just kind of believe it when I see it mode. You know what I mean? Like, we've been calling around here locally, like the Red Sox in jest, fans call them the interest kings, because if ever there is a great free agent out there, the Red Sox are absolutely, according to agents, according to, the John Heymans of the world, they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be in the conversation. They're going to make an offer. Who knows if it's a competitive offer, but they're going to be, right there in the conversation, because that drives sales, right? That gets butts in seats. But over the last year or two of really uninspiring play and sort of cheaping out by Boston standards anyway. I know the payroll is not lowest in Major League Baseball or anything like that, but compared to what we're used to around here and have been used to for a long time, Red Sox aren't spending, and certainly aren't spending well. And, you've now had Sam Kennedy, who's kind of a mouthpiece for the front office and baseball ops, come out and say, like, now it's different, and now they're going to spend, and now, like, this interest in Soto is real. And Fried and these other starting pitcher they want 2 of these guys Okay. I mean, I like, you want to see my Christmas Hanukkah wish list? There's a lot of stuff I want to. Let's see if they actually go out and deliver and be the fans at this point, because this is a major market. I wouldn't make this claim if this was Kansas City or something like that. This is a major market. The fans do deserve to be treated accordingly. Like, there are people around here, a lot of people, in the wake of the Dodgers winning the World Series. And I'm not saying you got to spend like LA. That's absurd what the Dodgers are doing. There's no salary cap in baseball, though, so by all means do it. But nobody, other than, I guess, Dodgers fans, have that expectation of their franchise. Even Yankees fans don't think that, they're going to go out and spend the way the Dodgers are spending.
Not anymore.
I mean, they're in the Soto mix after spending however $1 billion last year, whatever the hell it was. But you see Mookie Betts win a third World Series championship, the second with the Dodgers, and you could have kept him. You could have paid for him. You could have. I mean, his contract is going to look like a bargain with what what Soto's going to be paid, what Shohei was paid, and Shohei's might be the greatest player literally ever. Never mind of this generation, but this stuff ages over time, and usually pretty favorably, honestly, for the organization if you're willing to get in front of it. And they weren't. And so, long-winded rant attempted to be shorter. I will sit here and kind of hold my breath and see what the Red Sox do. And like I said, believe it when I see it. But until they're not the interest kings, they're the interest kings.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I would, like, whether they get a Snell or a Free, just kind of throw the fans a bone so they don't completely just like, why the hell am I going to the game kind of thing. I would expect them to get somebody. I think the Soto thing is a pipe dream, and I'm starting to think he's going to the Mets. I was confident the Yankees would keep him. Yankees need to keep him, and they could talk about plan Bs all they want. If you don't get Soto, you're not winning a World Series next year, and you're wasting Judge's prime. So it's a disaster. But the Yankees have a little bit of what the Red Sox have. They not as bad, but at least the Red Sox have won somewhat recently. The Yankees, man, Hal is just not wired like his dad. It's tough. I miss the old days of the Yankees getting every possible player they could. The Red Sox trying to match that, and they just butt heads 18 times, then a few more times in the playoffs. That was the best, but we're a long ways from that, I guess.
No, it's been a while. Like you said, I mean, the Yankees haven't won since what, 09?
Correct.
And everyone thought like, all right, this is the year. And I mean, at least people wanted to believe that. And I mean, I was never truly convinced. And then honestly, in the postseason, they did exceed my expectations at that point in time, but fell short again. And it's sort of, we're sort of talking about the Yankees now the way we were talking about the Dodgers, until 2020 when they finally, broke out and won that championship during the COVID shortened season. And now they won a quote unquote real one in a full season. But yeah, these organizations, LA, New York, Boston, like these major markets, you have high expectations. And so when they, cheap out or don't deliver, it's probably great for the rest of baseball, but for the fans, pretty discouraging.
Adam, this was fun, man. Appreciate the time. Happy Thanksgiving. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, all your listeners as well. You can get me on Twitter, Adam M. Kaufman. And as Will mentioned off the top, The Gambler with Adam Kaufman is on WRKO. We podcast it daily as well, but it's 10 to midnight Eastern if you ever want to listen live. Also on Sports Grid multiple times a week. Having a lot of fun.
All right, Adam. Appreciate the time. Hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Sounds great.
All right, that'll do it. Rate, review, subscribe. We will be back Friday with a quick little show. Get ready for the weekend. So look for that. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. See you then.